Welcome to Rauta. This video is done in commercial collaboration with our sponsor, Steelfest. Hails and welcome to Rauta's Underground Trio with a new episode, three different bands, and I can really say three different styles. Now, this is a little bit special because usually when I'm doing this from Spain, which you can probably figure by now, I don't have physical copies for these Underground Trio episodes. This time, the only one I actually have a physical copy here with me is a reissue, which then again justifies its existence. I mean, this is something that I previously reviewed, but now it's here as a different format and a new version of that. So I guess it justifies its existence being a reissue with a physical copy on this particular episode. But let's get the show going on, and here it is. First band is from United States, and it's called Night Attack. And this one is a curious case because technically speaking, this one is a thrash metal band from North Carolina, active since 2016, and a demo out and an EP out, no full album so far. So what I have here as for review is the Initiation from 2022. This was already obviously sent to me last year, but as it things how things are as it is. This once again came quite late to the party and as such has been waiting for its turn some, I don't know, 7 months or so. But that's what you have when people send you the releases quite late to the party and then you start doing newer ones when they are released. Anyway, this initiation features some 33 minutes of music, which then again is technically speaking like a full album, at least for so many bands. So whereas in the previous years, back in the days, 20 minutes was more like MCD, and anything beyond 20, 22, 25 was technically speaking a full album until things really started to get mixed up with Cradle Phil doing some 39 or whatever minutes with Vampire MCD, which was technically speaking in a full album but released as EP price. So once again, we shouldn't really be surprised that you get some 33 minutes of an EP, and some albums might be even shorter than that. But this is what it is. One thing which I think kind of justifies the whole thing here is that technically speaking, this is in a way closer to demo level. So if this is available as mid price, I think it's just fair. But I don't do the judging in terms of that. I kind of you know don't think it's smart way to do reviews in the sense like this would be 4 stars release, but because it costs like a full album, it's only 3 stars out of 5, or vice versa. You know what I mean? I mean, the price is always you know, the price point, whether you decide something is not worth your money or whatever, it's not really relevant to the quality within. If something is just too expensive for you, it's going to be expensive even if it's 5 star releases and vice versa. So I don't really believe in the thing that some things are like worth mid price. Like you wouldn't buy this for full price, but if you get for the mid price, then go for it. I mean, why even bother if it's not worth your listening? Which brings us to the very problematic thing with the initiation. And now people, problematic, okay, it's gonna be something toxic, something cancel culture, woke shit, whatever. No, the problematic thing here is I kinda like Night Attack, but I would like to like it more. But there are problems with the music, and that's why I'm a little bit explaining, kind of using this kind of a time to explain this disclaimer of sorts. I know it gets a little bit confusing ways to start a review. Bear with me, however. The thing here is, this is worth full length. In terms of the length and all, blah, blah, blah. And you get enough music, 5 proper tracks and a demo track. Yeah. It's one track to repeat the whole thing here, but still, it's 30 minutes and plus music. But the problem itself is not, being, just not exactly in terms of length and all. It's more like these guys are definitely very potent in creating trash riffs. When it comes to the vocals, they are more definitely on the black metal side, and for that department, they are not very good. Not bad, just like in the middle. Very, very mediocre, or like people nowadays say, mid. They're very mid. They're not good, they're not bad, they're mid. And that's one of the problems with Night Attack. I mean, let's face the facts. These riffs are not as good, say, as with Aura Noir. They are definitely not like some Absu with Tara album. The point here is, for thrash metal albums, these riffs are actually quite nice and all, decent. There is a certain kind of energy and tempo which is like, yeah, I could make this a banger. But the vocalists are way too monotone for real thrash metal. My point here is, when you are combining these kind of riffs with vocals which are very monotone, then again fitting for black metal, you end up kind of a compromised version. Let me put it this way. What do you think about think bands like Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, Sodom, Creator, Megadeth, or whatever, they all have some kind of a unique flavor in those bands. Not only with the riffs or drums or whatever, but also the vocalist. I mean, think of James Hetfield, then compare him to Tom Araya, or Belladonna, or John Bush in Anthrax, or Megadeth, etc., or Exodus, Paul Beloff, or later eras. They have all more personality than most black metal vocalists combined. This coming from a person who is a big black metal fan and also a black metal vocalist. This means I am trying to say I think I know what's going on here, and I think I know also what needs to be fixed with Night Attack, and that's the vocalist. It's not like the vocalist is not skilled enough. I think it's just way too monotone, very monochromatic, just basic kind of raspiness vocals. And this would need more versatility when it comes to the vocals, more wavier, more cleaner patterns and shrieks and all that old school feeling. Now it's more like taking the old school riffs and then just asking some black metal vocalist to do the vocals, which is kind of like a letdown. It's almost like you're having a date with a gorgeous woman, and then you're like, yeah, we're gonna have some steamy action. And then you go just for, instead of, you know, my point here is it's kind of like the the opposite of over delivering. It's under delivering. You're expecting some trash metal with the kind of personality and all, and you kind of go halfway through, and then it's like, okay, let's finish it and go home. So that's the problem I'm having Night Attack. It's not like the songs are bad. It's not like the production is bad. I mean, they're nothing out of ordinary. Let's put it this way, but it's more like work in progress. This being said, however, this is EP, not exactly a demo anymore, but not most certainly a full album in that sentence. So I kind of get it, and I wanna kind of, accept it as like they are not on the album level just yet. But the next one, and I think this is something they need to fix, move from mediocrity to something really, really promising. Fix those vocals, make them a lot better, and they're ready to kick ass and conquer the world. Maybe not with the first album or even two, the second one, but after that, all bets are off. Definitely interesting. Give it a chance if you're into blackened trash. The second one is from Finland, and this is old school death metal. Like I said, these different styles today are very, very different from one another. We have trash, we have death metal, and later on we have black metal. And now this is indeed going from worst to best. And these two first ones are, in my opinion, quite equal in quality. I actually was wondering, which way to put them, like which band to start with. Then I decided to go with the exact order I was listening to these albums, because to be honest, these first two ones, they're basically the same level. Quite okay, but not there yet, not deserving a cigar. So the second one is Sadistic Drive from Joensuu, eastern part of Finland, and they did their first album, Anthropophagy, how to pronounce it, in 2020. And that is 3 years ago almost. And that was kind of a lukewarm, decent, somewhere in the middle kind of old school thing. I mean, they lacked the power when it comes to production. They really didn't write too interesting riffs, even though they had the kind of old school feeling and very basic growly vocals. Now guess what? This 2022 release, which also came like last summer or so, is very much like repeating the patterns. It's definitely like part two of the very first album. Once again, 32 minutes. Remember what I said about full albums and that EP in terms of length. Yes, indeed, this one is a tiny amount shorter than the, the EP I featured. Yet the length is roughly the same. I mean, this album and its EP. Anyway, the point here is this one has 9 tracks. It's old school death metal with kind of a technical flavor. By technical flavor, I mean it's not really technical as technical death metal bands, but it's kind of like Morbid Angel kind of stuff, but lacking just the killer songs and riffs. Everything here is somewhat more complicated than we'd say Obituary, but it's definitely kind of American death metal style. So it's almost like incantation and emulation, but a little bit of a Finnish twist, if you will. And that's what this gets going. Kind of a dark, kind of a heavy, but only kind of. And then you're like, so where is the extra lead? Are you saving on it because this is way too, I'm not going to say lightweight, I'm going to say unheavy. This is not as heavy as it's supposed to be for a death metal album. Instead of crushing and smashing your enemies into tiny little bits and, kind of a grain, you're just kind of a putting it flat, like pushing, not crushing, if you get my meaning. That applies both to the riffs, the songs, as well as the production. The production is somewhat kind of lame. I mean, it's more like a demo level, like not you're not in a studio just yet. You're doing a rehearsal demo and then sending to a label and expecting the label, okay, here's some cats, go to a proper studio and make it work. Instead, they released this one. This is how it sounds. I'm not going to say it's a fact. And that's what bothers me. The drums have a little bit more heaviness in them, but not enough. Guitars, in my opinion, way too weak. And what is this clanking bass? I mean, it's audible. That's great news. I mean, for a lot of metal albums that don't have audible bass. But when your bass is more like clong, clang, clong, cling, and the riffs are like din, 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 then you're like, it's a little bit off. What about those growl vocals? Yes, they do exist, but they're way too much in the background. Instead of like being on your face, like attacking you, it's more like a beast back in there in the cave. Are you scared yet? You know what the difference is? If I'm gonna punch you, or if I'm gonna like, can there's a fist? You know, they are lacking in aggression. Maybe it's partially mixing, maybe not the fault of the vocalist. I really don't know. But what I do know that they don't have the punch it needs in terms of, making this album fierce, bestial, impactful. So once again, I hate to repeat it and I hate to kind of slander these guys, but this is not the album we were looking for. First album, you're kind of okay to do those mistakes. Then you're supposed to fix them and come back stronger if your first album is not bonded by blood, in which case you cannot fix anything because there's nothing broken. But this time it's more like, hey, we have this faulty album, kind of like okay, but not there yet. Then you do another one, which is exactly like, hey, didn't you fix anything I told you to? So go back to the garage, try to fix them. Not bad, but even for old school death metal maniacs, this is not gonna cut it. This is nothing special here. Totally forgettable. And then there's something that I promised to do. Um, as I said, there will be a physical copy, and this is it. This is the one that I was talking about. This is reissue of Finnish black metal band Marras, Where Light Comes to Die, the debut album from 2019. And now this one was released in February 2023 as a tape format. Now previously this was out on physical copy on CD, as well as digital, obviously, and there was some kind of a self-financed tape available, it seems. Mind you, this is old lineup, which you can still see VK as, aka Mr. Vargrab, right here with his armor suit. So the thing here is, now this is available in a nicely laid out copy. The only thing I'm really missing, I don't know if I'm actually missing anything, because you have it here. You have the band photos, you have the lyrics, and actually this is as good as J cards, that is, these tape covers can really be. And on top of that, even this tape here is printed. So I guess this is as good as, tapes can be. I was kind of expecting something else to be found. But really, jokes aside, if you're a tape collector, if you like tape format, and you like Finnish black metal, there is no reason why to skip this one. Now let's go back to Metal Archives when I guide you through. I'm not going to repeat everything I said with the previous review with this first album, which is in my opinion quite a bit better than the second one, but let's try to describe so that people don't have to go back to the first album. So this one comes once again in some 33 minutes, seems to be the topic of the day, and this one is kind of old school, synth-driven black metal with lots of burst parts. There are parts where the keyboards just kind of fly and create this majestic atmosphere. Beautiful, dark, very versatile. There is lots of diversity in terms of like which kind of atmosphere is being built. And then you have those kind of affected FX vocals, black metal ones, and you also have interludes with either keyboards or acoustic, semi-acoustic guitars, and you have a lot of spoken samples. So there's lots of things going on. It's not like one track is then being repeated throughout the album for 10 tracks, but more like everything is like happening. Sometimes, in my opinion, the engine kind of shuts down way too much for my liking. That is, there's too much, you know, space being used with those spoken parts, the spoken samples and all that stuff. And in my opinion, this could have lived without this many interludes. But when the actual black metal riffs started being played and all that stuff, and when the keyboards are really building up the atmosphere, it's really good. So maybe it's a little bit of bumpy road, but still, being said, this is kind of an homage to 1990s black metal, coming from Finland, but definitely nodding towards Norway and all. So, like I said, this was one of the better albums in 2019 from Finnish black metal scene, and I think it really stands out today. I mean, I haven't been listening to this particular release for like, I don't know, 3 years now. Probably not since the album was released, and now coming back to it, it kind of feels fresh, even though, yeah, I can kind of tell, yeah, I've been listening to it. So after this while, it's kind of a refresh to kind of a restart your brain with the music to be played and like, hey, does this actually sound as good as it sounded like some 3.5 years ago, whatever it was? And yes, it does. So there's that. So once again, if you like the tape format, this is for you. And if you like the previous formats, you will find them here on Metal Archives on the other versions tab. Mind you, this tape version, which is 2023 release, is not even listed here. So you have the original CD and the vinyl and the digital ones from, the first era. Then you have, or actually the CD and digital, but vinyl and tapes, they were released earlier on. I can't tell what's the difference between the 2020 independent tape release and this one. So there are differences, but not everything ends on Metal Archives, especially with the smaller labels. So this is one of those Ancient Dead, the same label that released, for example, their late Terrestrial Hospice album. So those who are in tape format, once again, this is your format. But if you want the previous ones, go ahead. They should be out available on your local distro, whatever you prefer. And of course, for all these different releases, you will find these Metal Archives links in the description box, so you can start finding more links and information about them, and or Google skills to listen to the music in case you're not ready to buy them blindly or whatever. But I strongly still recommend you to check out all of these bands, or at least the ones that you feel you're most connected with, so to speak. So here it is, some black metal for you, some death metal for you, and some thrash metal for you. Take a look, take a listen, and I hope you enjoy some of them. And if you have questions or comments about the bands or the review, let me know in the description box. I mean, comment box, obviously. So see you soon with more reviews coming your way. Stay tuned.